A high producing team is just a group of people working together. A top performing team is movement fueled by purpose. Today, you will discover how to build a team that doesn't just hit production numbers, but creates an environment where top talent actually want to be. Because most team leaders hire for production and they end up with this revolving door of agents and sometimes, at worst, a toxic culture that drains the energy of the producers you'd want there in the first place. So, Jessica Nieto welcomes Beth Matthews, and they both together share the blueprint for purpose driven hiring, fostering a healthy culture, and scaling with intention.
So I got into the industry in New York in 2009. Obviously, we were coming off of a crash and a really difficult economic environment, which is why I was met with a lot of resistance to leave my very comfortable corporate job to pursue real estate. It started with very clear intentions, driving the bus, bringing some people on the bus, and then all of a sudden there was a huge influx of people onto the bus without really paying attention to why, being intentional about who we brought on. I just got to a point where I was like, I can't stay on this path because it's taking an emotional toll. Why am I operating from this place of expectation rather than just being true to what I want to be doing? I truly believe that if you're working with the right people, you will outgrow them. And that's okay. That means they've done their job. So thank them and then figure out where you go next and who you need to support that journey. I'm here to improve lives and elevate the industry.
Welcome, friends, and thank you for joining us for another inspiring episode of the Reveal podcast. I'm Jessica Nieto, and this conversation is going to be packed with actionable insights for you to implement as an entrepreneur on the path to success. So joining us today is the remarkable friend of mine, Beth Matthews, an absolute trailblazer, phenomenal leader, and a profoundly impactful human being. Beth has carved a path of success through her innovative spirit and relentless pursuit of excellence in real estate and beyond. And Beth's journey is not just about personal success. It's a testament to her commitment to elevating the real estate industry and empowering other professionals to achieve their goals. And as we explore Beth's story, we'll uncover the power of self-reflection, the strength and resilience that is required to make big changes to achieve your dream. And as a key influencer in the real estate industry, Beth is a true leader and inspiration. Let's jump into the conversation. Beth Matthews, welcome to the Reveal podcast. I'm so excited to have this conversation with you. Welcome to the studio.
Thank you, Jessica. I'm excited too.
Yeah, absolutely. So tell the audience, what are you up to currently? What's going on in your now business and where are you located?
Yeah, so I'm located in Buffalo, New York, so home of the Buffalo Bill, big Bill fans up in this neck of the woods.
Uh-oh.
And July, which is peak busy season for us because we do, believe it or not, experience some seasonality when we're getting 8 feet of snow in the winter. It's not always conducive to house hunting. So we're riding the wave right now.
Yeah, and it's hot everywhere. I think there's maybe one pocket somewhere you could find that there's a breeze, but otherwise it's melting down. And it has been an interesting July market. I think everybody wants to know, where are we heading? What's going on? And yet still so many opportunities for consumers and for real estate agents. And I noticed last week at Facebook that you were promoting a buyer course. But tell us a little bit about that, because I think it's so timely. And I absolutely love to share what people are doing to really lead and pioneer in this industry and help everyone else in the industry find their way. Tell us a little bit about what you're up to with that.
Yeah, so I partnered with Spring Benson on this, and we created a buyer mastery program, largely to fill a need around the NAR settlement and the upcoming changes. When we were communicating, we put our heads together and said, we have the unique position that we've always used buyer rep agreements in Utah, where Spring is, and it hasn't always been mandatory in New York. It's been highly encouraged. And when I started in the business, the person that trained me out of the gate said, this is what you do, this is why you do it, and this is how you present it. And of course, you modify a few things over the years, but to hear the number of agents that really didn't have experience with the agreement, how to present it, we decided to put together a little mastery course, 4 sessions, and it's everything from how to present the agreement. You get to hear me do the presentation and answering some questions, objection handling, etc.
Awesome. I love that. And I'm sure you're getting lots of great feedback. What's great about being a mentor, coach, or a trainer is that you often learn new things from people that are learning it for the first time. What's been your experience? You have a really extensive background as a team leader, I think a brokerage owner. Give
Mhm.
us the big picture of how you've grown through your experiences of being a small independent brokerage owner to now partnering with cloud brokerage and moving your business to that platform.
Yeah, it's been a journey. It's been fun. So I think so many of us in this space, you fall into things by accident. I knew I wanted to be in the real estate space. I had dabbled in my early 20s and didn't really have the discipline or the skill
Mm.
set to build a book of business. So completed my degree, went into pharmaceutical sales for a number of years, and then just felt this calling back to real estate. And obviously, when you've struggled at your first attempt and you've developed a skill set, I knew what I would need to do, which is the consistency piece of building a business and prospecting and all the things that
Mm.
we look for the magic pill or the silver bullet. And the reality
Right?
work. So once I started doing that, I quickly understood how to leverage time and I started to bring in support in terms of admin support, transaction support, and over time, agents, because I was doing a lot of training and I started to realize that through the training, there were also some people that I could bring into my world and we could win together. So that
Well,
evolved and became a team where I was a team lead for a number of years. The brokerage that I was with was acquired by a much larger brokerage back in 2016, 2017 timeline. And it just didn't feel like a good fit for me. I gave it a year to see what everything was going to look and feel like. And that really was the motivation to go independent. At that point in time, there wasn't a brokerage in my market that I felt a lot of alignment with. So I just will create my own. And that grew. At our peak. We were just over 40 agents and rated in the top 10 brokerages in our market. And one day I looked around and I was like, I have lost complete control of what my vision was for this organization and looking around the space and realizing that it's far from what I had hoped it would be. So I had to make a difficult decision. Obviously, that comes with some people leaving, restructuring some things. And through that process, I came across the cloud-based brokerage model and said, this is really appealing because it does help to have the support of a larger organization who's still giving you the autonomy to run your business the way that you want to run your business.
I absolutely love that. And you and I are actually at different cloud-based brokerages. I'm at EXP, you're at Real.
I'm at Real.
Yep. Which I think is amazing because I know there's a lot of competition out in the marketplace between our brokerages because they are newer still to many, but it's working. And I think it's fantastic. Like the more that we can collaborate together as well to share that this model really is truly better for the agents, especially independent brokerages. I know when we moved our independent brokerage over to a cloud brokerage platform, the things that we got to let go of and the space that was created for the things that we're good at, like generating revenue, scaling, growing, was phenomenal. So take me to the moment where you had that epiphany that you were what you had in front of you was not any longer really aligned with your original vision. That's scary for entrepreneurs, right? Because like you said, like you have to make hard choices, make big changes. Can you walk somebody through being in your shoes in that moment that you were in and just how you took action and got momentum into creating that change to get back in alignment?
Absolutely. I never really experienced the Sunday scaries. I always looked forward to the day. I loved going to work. And there was a period of time where, for months, I was feeling really anxious on a Sunday evening and I couldn't quite put my finger on it. And I'm a big believer in breath work and mindfulness practices. So I was spending a lot of time journaling and getting back to the vision of why did I even start a team? Because the independent brokerage really stemmed from a means to an end. And essentially we extracted the team and from the brokerage and continued operating as we had. And that goal had always been to be a really cohesive group, to operate at a really high level, I always had like no divas, no delinquents, and no drama policy. I just remember realizing that the person that I had as a business partner at the time, that we weren't really in alignment anymore. There was a lot of agreement face to face. And then I found out, my coach calls it triangulation, where then I'd leave the room and there'd be side conversations. Like, I don't know that I really agree with that. And it's
Mhm.
tough. Somebody that is a person I have a lot of love for, but as business partners, we were no longer aligned. And I just got to a point where I was like, I can't stay on this path because it's taking an emotional toll. It's taking a physical toll. I was gaining weight, stressed out. My kids are like, Mom, you're so unhappy lately. What's going on? That I do some real soul searching. And I had a friend say, you really need to put pen to paper and put your vision back down and then look at that and read that and say, is this what I have today? And if not, how do you?
Mhm.
So I always say it started with very clear intentions, driving the bus, bringing some people on the bus. And then all of a sudden there was a huge influx of people onto the bus without really paying attention to why, being intentional about who we brought on. And the next thing you know, I'm like, I don't even know if I'm on the bus. I think I'm being dragged behind the bus. So I
Mhm.
back up to the wheel, which meant, unfortunately, kicking some people off the bus.
Yeah. I love how it started with the behavior, the really the self-reflection, the internal discovery of how you were feeling, paying attention to that, but then also looking into your environment to the people that love and trust you to get their feedback and to walk with you through that. I think that's so important to really to invest in the time in yourself, but also to look to the people that you know and trust or that know you well to give you feedback. So that's really
Yeah.
great advice.
The outside can be impact.
Because they see things in you that you're maybe not even willing to recognize or admit yet. Walk me through what did you said you did pharmaceutical sales. Often, I'm sure you've heard this a lot, being a team leader, a brokerage owner, is that people come into the real estate business and they have got so many skills from pharmaceutical sales to real estate is a little bit more linear. Does it feel completely different, right? Because are tied to both. But a lot of times I hear really talented people that come from big corporate, all different backgrounds, and they say, I have to reinvent myself as a real estate agent, where I believe you should really just look at what are your strengths? How can you strengthen them? How can you build a business around that superpower that you have and that skill set? What's your take on that?
I agree with you wholeheartedly. And I think sales in general, there's so many different skill sets that go into it. And there's so many different types of sales and personalities in the field, whether it's real estate or otherwise, that everybody can take something. At the end of the day, with very few exceptions, almost any industry involves interacting with people. So whatever part that you can take as your superpower and translate that into this industry, I think a lot of people don't have to reinvent themselves, so to speak. They just have to really do the self-reflection to figure out what is the piece that translates. And then you work on developing the skill sets that you need to support that.
And integrating yourself into that strategy. So you're at Real now and you're still running a team. What does your team look like now? Where's the focus?
It's interesting because there's been a little bit of a shift recently from the standpoint that I brought my fiance into the business. And it's never something that I thought I would do. Love him deeply, but
Was on the hard no list before.
absolutely not. I would never work with somebody that I'm living with. And I brought Ethan to an event. It was a real estate related event, but I knew there was going to be so much more to it that I thought he'd get a lot out of it. And he did. And I've always admired what you're building. I've always wanted to be like more in your world in terms of the culture and the values that you have. And then my coach happened to be at that event. He comes up to me, he goes, what's Ethan's DISC assessment? What's his profile? Believe it or not, I did not administer the DISC assessment when we started dating.
Believe it or not, meaning it's something you would have typically done.
Yeah, not too far fetched, but it was not something that was a criteria. And I said, okay. And he did. And he came to me later on and he said, do you think you could work with Ethan? And I said, okay, that makes me a little anxious. Why are you asking? And he said, if you follow anything like Traction or the EOS programs where there's the visionary, the integrator, et cetera, his profile indicates he's a strong integrator. He has sales experience, he has sales management experience, not in real estate, but in other industries. And obviously he has a vested interest in you personally and the success of the organization that I think if you guys can find a way to work together, this could be a really great collaboration.
Wow.
We spent the long plane ride home dissecting that and marinating on settings and boundaries. To answer your question, Ethan he's now learning the world of real estate. He's going through one of my trainings with some of our agents, which is fun. And I'm in production, which for a while I felt like that was taboo. Like you get to a certain level and you're supposed to move out of production. But when I was doing a lot of that self-reflection, one of the things that I kept saying I really missed was by working with people to buy and sell homes. I love it. I love the interaction with clients. I love the art of negotiation, the market. Like I love all of it. So I was like, why am I operating from this place of expectation rather than just being true to what I want to be doing? So today I sell homes. I've started to move into the commercial space a bit because I wanted a new challenge, and I developed my agent.
I love that. And what's great is for my team anyway, the agents, they learn through osmosis by seeing even just how you work. One of my team agents told me today, she goes, I really appreciate what you said the other day. And I learned that I really reflected on not saying, what was that? No worries. Because I had said in a training about communication, how the things that you say matter. If a client says to you, oh, I'm not able to meet you at that time, and you say no worries, to me, it infers that they've done something wrong. Like, don't worry about it. Okay, what would be a better time?
Yes. Or those skills you develop over time. And you're right. We all end up taking on characteristics of people that we spend a lot of time with. So to be field-based with my agent, I take phone calls, and if it's a client, hey, do you mind if I put you on speakerphone? I have an agent here, and I think they could really listening to this conversation, and they're great about it.
And learn so much and so much faster. So I love that. And they see your work ethic, right? So, okay, we work here. For our culture.
Things that I'm asking you to do, and I always share with them. I did step out of production for a while when I was wearing a lot more hats. And so I'm not starting necessarily from square one, but I also didn't have this huge pipeline because as the team lead, I had started to delegate and distribute a lot of my past clients to other agents. So I said, I'm doing the exact same thing I did to launch my business, to relaunch my business. And the same things work. There might be cool new tools, there are a few little tips and techniques, but ultimately it's fundamentally the same things.
Fundamentally the same things. Yes. And you seem to be one that really believes and practices self-reflection often. And you're obviously tracking what you're doing. You're assessing like what's working, what's not working, what should we continue to use? Should we find something better? So really fostering that collaborative environment when you're shoulder to shoulder with them. So love that. And I think in this business, one thing that's really important, especially for newer agents, whether they're young or old or whatever it is, or trying to reinvent or restart their career, is to be learning from practitioners. I think it's very crucial right now. And if you're going to pull from power with a coach or a mentor, it needs to be someone that's helping you more with maybe your vision. There's different types of coaches that we need for different things, right? Like I have several mentors and coaches. We all need them. What would your advice be for agents or entrepreneurs of any kind on making good decisions on the people that they take advice from or pay for coaching or mentorship from?
I think it's to make sure that it's somebody that you really want to emulate. So it's easier to take guidance from somebody that you can look at and say, I would live that life. I would do the things they do. Because there's so many people out there that coach, mentor, support in some capacity. And it's not good or bad if they're not in alignment with you, but you will get more out of it if you find somebody that you're in alignment with and you're like, okay, that resonates with me. I am also in the coaching space, and I had a discovery call or just a get to know you with a woman who reached out to me because she had heard me speak on a webinar. And she said, I've had several coaches in the past and it doesn't work for me. And I said, why do you think it is? She goes, because I've never really felt connected to them, like the way they did things, the way they lived their life. So none of it really was in alignment with me. I have children and I got into this going through a divorce. And so there was a lot of parallels in our stories that I was relatable to her. So just in that, if she'd have more success working with somebody that she relates with.
100%. And it's so simple the way that you articulated it, right? And it just, make sure that what they're doing is something that you'd want to, because that's where they are. That's how they only know how they got from here to there.
It's not a lifetime commitment. And I know that sounds terrible, but I truly believe that if you're working with the right people, you will outgrow them. And that's okay. That means they've done their job. So thank them and then figure out where you go next and who you need to support that journey.
When I onboard agents, I always tell them the goal is that you can build anything as big as you want or as small as you want. It's whatever you want. But I want to make sure that they know how to generate revenue and that they're not just here to be an order taker and to just do what's assigned and not create something where they could walk away and build their own team if they wanted to. Everyone's going to grow at some point. If we're not growing, we're dying, right? They say. So tell me a little bit about what's on the horizon for you. What are the big, crazy, maybe a crazy goal or a project or something that you want to reveal to the audience that maybe they want to reach out to you about, or what's on the big list for you?
So through all of the self-reflection of the last year specifically, I kept coming back to a common theme, and it's one of my affirmations is that I'm here to improve lives and elevate the industry. And I initially had this vision of that's what I do for the agents on my team, right? That's why I'm here. And I had a very good friend challenge me a bit at an event that I was at. And he said, if that's truly your goal, is the improvement of lives and the elevation of the industry strictly in your backyard, or do you want to take beyond your area code? And I said, I guess I haven't really thought about it. And he goes, you should, because the reality is the world has gotten so much smaller as technology is so readily available and content through podcasts or Zooms that he said, rather than pigeonhole, why don't you cast a wider net? And so now as I'm doing trainings with my agents, I'm starting to record them and make them evergreen and offer them. What started with some of my real estate besties, as I say, where we're sharing ideas. Hey, I recorded this training, share it with your agent. And now I'm realizing that it doesn't matter what market you're in. It doesn't matter what geography you're in. Everybody faces the same challenges. And so to take the knowledge that I have and offer it more broadly is something that I'm really excited to do.
That is fantastic. And it's a big world, especially in the cloud brokerage. That really changed for me. I was always like the hard worker, digging in the trenches, like head down, super serious in my business. And coming onto a platform where you're connected to so many people, and not even just inside our own brokerage, but collaborating at industry events, you really become more connected truly to where we as leaders of leaders can pull from power and continue our personal and professional growth and just get into rooms with people more often that are doing things at a high level. I always explain it to agents that don't understand. They're like, I like to go to the office. Okay. How many times a month do you go to the office? I like to go at least once a month. They have a class on Canva. I'm like, do you even know if that person knows how to instruct others well on Canva? Like what, like Bob at the water cooler is training on Canva on Friday. Do you want to do that? Or do you want to get online and see the Canva, go to the Canva Creator Conference virtually?
So many resources available. You just have to do a quick search and they pretty much fall in your lap. But no, you're right. And I think it's funny, the camaraderie piece, I think even as we've evolved through things like the pandemic, I think we've learned how to connect through technology better because it becomes such a normal thing now that you and I, when we very first spoke about being on the podcast, I was quickly like, okay, now we're friends. And with each other, it was a very instant connection with you. And what I'm finding is as the industry evolved, at least from my perspective, there's a lot more collaboration and less competition.
Yeah, absolutely. And it just feels better, right? It feels better that you can make fast friends and connect with people and be able to reach out and go, oh, I know Beth would know how to fix this. I'm going to call her real quick and see if she has 5 minutes to help me solve my problem so I can break through this door and create something. And then, of course, when I'm done with it, I'm just going to share my copy and she can, it's just amazing. We can grow so much faster and evolve and do ultimately the fulfillment is, like you said, changing lives and changing the industry in a positive way. Yeah, I love that. So tell us a little bit more about you personally. Tell us a story when you first realized that you could be a salesperson or an entrepreneur.
Oh my gosh.
Well,
I think my dad would tell you that he knew from the time I was a toddler that I was going to be somewhat entrepreneurial. I had a great ability to articulate myself, which I think is really powerful to be able to
It is.
communicate. And I could debate as most toddlers could when I really wanted things. The emotional maturity evolves over time. I don't know that there was ever a definitive aha moment. I jokingly say maybe somewhere around 30, 35, because I was a very compliant child. I didn't miss curfew. I got straight A's. I did all the things that were expected of me, which is why tendency to sometimes default back to this place of expectation. Something happened right around my mid 30s where I was like, I can literally do whatever I want.
Mhm.
And
What a
it,
great day that was.
yeah, and it wasn't strictly career based, but again, I had this amazing career, something that most people coveted on paper. It was fantastic. Salary, bonuses, holidays, benefits, company car, and I didn't like it. And to be able to be honest about that and say, I realized that going into real estate is a bit riskier, but I'd rather take the risk on myself than continue down this path of just going through the motions.
Oh, man. Again, another moment where you were having that self-reflection and realize that there was more. I want to go back to what you said, though, about going back to a place of, what did you say? Expectation. That for me has been the biggest part of my ability to grow. I would say not to my growth, but my ability to grow is letting go of parts of our identity, right? For me, like there's been many, one of them being accessibility. I need to be accessible all the time. Otherwise, yeah. Oh, I could have died on that mountain. Yeah. Like, thank God we got off. And ironically, the thing I hear more often from people is, yeah, sometimes I think there are three of you. Like, how are you always available? And it's their perception because I make myself available for them.
Yeah. And
Right.
I think it's very natural when you're a high achieving person to always operate from that. What does somebody else need from me? And great, there's a lot of attributes around that are really positive, but we often don't know when to set our boundaries until we're really in this place where we're like, this felt icky for a while. And when you start to reframe things for yourself, and I am absolutely guilty, same thing, Jessica, like the number of times people are like, how do you always respond so fast? And how do you always have the answer? The challenge with that was I made myself the default setting. So rather than do a little investigation on my own or put forth effort into finding an answer, everybody just came to bat. Like, why should I? It's resistance. And I realized emotionally draining me, and it wasn't serving them because by really smart people. And their confidence builds as they continue to evolve their skill set and have these little wins with themselves. That when I learned to be a little bit less responsive and just redirect to where the answer is first, you just either,
They become autonomous, yeah, and empowered.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah,
Yeah, absolutely. It's my favorite thing is agents, they come to you and they're like, "You won't believe it. What you said worked." Like, wow. And then I had an agent, she says yesterday, "And I couldn't have done it without you." And I said to her, I said, "The point is that I want you to understand that you can do it without me."
yeah,
And when they feel autonomous, "Oh, I did that.
yeah,
I showed up at the listing appointment and yes, based on the advice and what I learned and how I sharpened my skill set, I was able to convert, but it was the energy that they brought into that appointment that actually is what converted it to
yeah,
a contract. The strategy works, but if you show up and you don't execute it effectively, so when you empower them that way, and if they like the environment they're in, they'll stay, no matter if they continue to grow.
yeah.
Oh, I love that. Let's talk a little bit about what's going on in terms of the real estate industry and where you think there's opportunity. Where's your team focused in terms of generating business right now?
Sure. So I got into the industry in New York in 2009. Obviously, we were coming off of a crash. and a really difficult economic environment, which is why I was met with a lot of resistance to leave my very comfortable corporate job to pursue real estate. But my thought process was, if I can make it work when the market's not great, then I'll have longevity, and that's what I'm looking for. And I don't perceive that we're in that same space. I think there's different nuances, but I do believe that the skill set that I developed at that stage are the same things that are going to get us through this next hard, interesting period. I don't like
And
the word
resilient. Talk
resilient.
about
Yeah. Well, I'm doing a training starting at the end of July, and I will record it and likely make it available evergreen to folks that want it in the future with my agents. That is, I'm calling it RE launch, which is really not sexy or super unique, but it's either you're launching your real estate career or you're relaunching. And I'm going to be heavily on developing the fundamental skill set to focus on listings, which I think is sometimes a miss when we bring somebody into the industry. We focus heavily on getting them launched with buyers. Because a lot of times is the first transaction they have. But when they're green and eager and ready to learn anything, like, why not position them to be able to have all the conversations, to prospect? We do a lot of circle prospecting in my world, because the more you can communicate with sellers and the more you can understand about the homes and the properties, the conversation with the buyer is that much easier.
You are speaking my language. If when this goes on YouTube, this is podcast. I don't think we'd have an inventory problem if we trained agents differently. I love Seriously, I love to tell agents when there's 30 offers on a house, I'm like, can you imagine if all 30 of you went to this neighborhood and looked for a listing for your, and quite truly right now, the sellers are not sellers because they have to be buyers first.
Mhm.
And they don't understand the opportunity. So if you're cultivating listings and you already know how to talk to a buyer and you already know how to get in there and show them that there's different opportunity, there's loan products to solve their problem that they think they cannot solve. There's another neighborhood that they haven't explored. Or once you get the appointment to have the conversation, you can create surprising solutions to them and be their partner in create that path for them. Undeniably, you will be their agent to sell their house.
Absolutely. And I'll share this exact scenario. So I was circle prospecting around an area that I had recently sold a listing with multiple offers, which has been pretty commonplace. And so I'm doing a very basic script, and I have one of the newer agents on my team listening for the Y adapter. So we each had our headsets on, and it was the third dial I made. And I asked the woman for the quick rundown and said, "Have you considered selling?" And she said, "I have actually. I have 8 acres. My husband passed away a few years ago. It's too much for me. I'm at a stage of my life that I want to simplify." And she said, "When do you want to come out and talk about it?" So made the appointment, went out, had a great conversation with her, but she was very specific. If I'm going to give up this home that I have been in for 48 years, I want something really specific, and it needs to be in this neighborhood, in this area, in this price point. And if that doesn't exist, then I want you to tell me. And I said, it does exist, but if it goes to market, probably not going to exist at that price point. And it's not an area that things come up often. So I took her criteria, and then I circle prospected that entire neighborhood. And I found her something, looked at it. We looked at one other property that was on market for comparison, not in the neighborhood she wanted. And she was thrilled. She's, "I just feel like everything's coming together so perfectly that this was meant to be." So got her under contract on her new home from property never went on market, and then listed her house. And all because one day I showed the agents that this is how we do it.
I love this story. It's giving me goosebumps. I had a similar experience last week when I said, you know what, new agent, she's going to focus on expireds. We sat together and did expireds, and lady answered the phone. I don't speak Spanish, unfortunately, but I have agents on my team that do, and she spoke Spanish. We literally carried through a conversation for a little while, barely speaking words to each other that we understood, and set an appointment. Because I told her I'd have someone there, Googled a little bit, got through, but it was also one of the first calls that we made. And she goes, that seems a little bit, is that normal? I said, the thing is that I didn't just get started, right? It's not the first the first prospecting call I made this week. So the numbers are working in my favor a little bit, right? However, that call for many people, same for yours, could have turned into a 0.
Sure. And I have
right?
many.
That would have been it would have been okay, yep, not an easy seller, move on to something else. But being able to pull from your experience and being creative, doing
Mhm.
something different, putting the work in, that lady is going to be your raving fan forever.
And she
Forever.
said to me, she was, I told my brother about you, and he has an agent
Sweet.
that he's used forever, and he was trying like heck to get me to switch. And I said, absolutely not. She cold called me, and then she in my house, and then she cold called for me, and I'm with her. And
I love it.
I think people still value and respect effort and hard work. And so when
They
someone
do.
doing that on their behalf, they're like, I don't care who, like, this person is really working as my advocate. And that's more important than the
Mm.
longevity and ancillary relationship.
And you took that overwhelming stuff like off her plate. She didn't have anyone to really fix it. So you transformed like her environment for her.
Yep.
That's amazing. So I love your work. I'm super excited to have you back. I know that we're going to be collaborating, doing some other things together. So I'd love for you to leave the audience with something that you'd like to reveal about your journey as an entrepreneur to help them collapse time and break through whatever they're facing. What advice would you want to leave with them?
Find a mentor, find a coach,
Yeah.
find somebody that helps motivate and inspire you, because the journey can be challenging, but it doesn't need to be as challenging as we make it. I was guilty of it. I'm smart. I can figure everything out myself. And if I were to do it all over again, I would have started getting coaches and mentors much earlier in my career, because I could have avoided a lot of missteps, mistakes, and have them get expensive. So it's like you pull for time and experience. And I think it's really valuable to invest in yourself.
Awesome. Listeners, check Beth out. We've got her links in the copy below. Follow her on Instagram, I believe is the number one place to find you. And then where can they find the Buyer Mastery course or get in touch with you on that? Would that be Instagram as well?
So if you go to my Instagram bio, the link is right there.
Awesome. Be well, Beth. Look forward to connecting again. And thanks for being on the show today. Appreciate you. What an extraordinary journey we've shared today with Beth Matthews. Her narrative is a powerful reminder that with vision, commitment, and strategic action, you can forge a path to remarkable achievement. And Beth's commitment to improving lives and advancing the real estate industry is not only inspiring, but a call to action for all of us to strive for greater impact in our endeavors. And reflecting on today's discussion, it reminds me of a quote by Amy Poehler. Find a group of people who challenge and inspire you, spend a lot of time with them, and it will change your life. This quote encapsulates the spirit of collaboration and growth that Beth embodies. And if today's story of innovation and leadership has moved you, make sure to subscribe to the Reveal podcast for more episodes that bring you closer to the movers and shakers of the industry. Don't forget to leave us a review, share this episode with peers who aspire to redefine their own paths, and stay connected. Keep exploring new possibilities. And until next time, continue to break through those barriers and transform lives. See you soon.
Jessica Nieto and Beth Matthews have shown us that culture's not a soft skill. It is the most important, most valuable business asset for attracting and retaining top talent. You cannot micromanage your way to greatness. And if you don't hire for alignment, you're going to end up spending your time fixing people instead of growing profits. So your next steps are this: define your team's core purpose in a single sentence. And if you can't say it, your team can't live it. And if this episode did something to change your perspective on leadership, do us a favor, leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts and on Spotify. And failing that, if you're watching this on YouTube, make sure you're subscribed to KGCI Real Estate On Air.